I want to welcome you back to another episode of Tempo with Chris Thomas. Today is going to be raw, but at the same time, it's necessary, right? Talking about depression. Some of you listening right now are actually fighting this. Others who are listening or watching, you might know one of your loved ones may be going through this or fighting with this right now. But our society throws us pills. Our society throws us these distractions and entertainment so that we may not focus on the root cause of this disease called depression. So I want to break this down for you today. Why? Because depression is not random. It's not some mysterious condition or some mysterious fog, right? It's a process. It's a step-by-step process. And if you know the steps, then we can proactively reverse it. Now, I've learned this over time, right? And I learned about this framework, this mental framework called paradigms. Because the truth is this, even if you break free from depression one time, if your paradigm doesn't shift, then you'll keep circling around the same mountain. So I want you to grab your notes today. I want you to lean into this and listen to me very, very closely, because we're going to break this cycle together. I have family members who deal with this. I myself have never dealt with depression. I just come from a different mental state, right? I come from a different way of going about life. So I've never had the opportunity to dwell in a period of depression or a period of anything that retracts me from going forward, okay? So I want to give you this framework and how people may find themselves in this framework. I watch people who close to me go through this. And from my observation and from being around them, this is what I've learned. First and foremost, we have to identify depression from the root cause of ignorance. Because if you have ignorance, then we transition into doubt, right? We transition into worry. And because of doubt and because of worry, you have fear. And because of fear, then you have an anxiety. And anybody who knows this, if you have anxiety and that anxiety is suppressed, then that causes the depression. And ultimately, depression becomes disease, right? And disease, for this matter, causes a disintegration or a decay, right? That's the path that gets someone into a depression. So let me give you some stats just to, give some practicality to this. According to the World Health Organization, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide, and it affects more than 280 million people worldwide. In the U.S., let's talk, because this is where I live at, right? In the U.S., the CDC reports that 1 in 5 adults experience mental illness in a given year. 1 in 5, with depression being the most common. So this isn't just numbers. Think of it like this. For young adults leaving college with no plan, right? Ignorance of financial literacy. This creates doubt. This creates the worry about bills. Now, that doubt emotionalizes into fear. What if I can't pay rent this month? So fear manifests as anxiety. I'm going through the paradigm of what depression is, and then we're going to go into what the positive effects and things that we can do. So now that anxiety gets bottled up because why? You're not in a position to openly express yourself, or you don't have people around you who encourages you to express yourself. Now, before long, that depression sets in. And from there, your health declines. Your relationships around you begin to crumble. Now, your upbeatness or your efforts or your energy fades, right? That's how the chain works. So like always, I got to give you scripture, right? Because this is my foundation. Hosea 4:6 tells us what? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. That's ignorance at the root cause of everything. Lack of knowledge births destruction. So let me give you the framework of the opposite path that describes what depression is not. Understanding leads us to faith. Faith leads us to well-being, and well-being leads us to expression. Now, that same expression leads me to acceleration. Why? Because acceleration in my thoughts, in my emotions, in my mental capacity leads me to creation. So this is how I become productive. Now, if you follow that framework breakdown I just gave you, that path produces life. That path produces progress. That path produces your energy and your effort toward what you're creating. It's real simple in that matter because why? It starts in the mind. Now, I'm going to give you some data. Studies from Harvard Medical School show that individuals who practice positive reframing, that's mental, and active coping strategies, that's emotional, reduce depression symptoms up to 40%. Neuroscience confirms this. It says that the brain rewires with what? Intentional study and expression. Intentional study, that means I am observant to my ways. I am observant to what's around me. I am observant to people, places, and things all around me. Because why? That's my awareness and my expression. Neuroplasticity proves this. It says that repeated positive input creates lasting change. Okay? As always, I'm always going to give you scripture. So here's the scripture tie-in. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Let's break that down. What does that mean? God has not created me or implemented inside of me a spirit of fear. This is why 2-year-olds are fearless, right? The babies are fearless. It's us adults that hold them back and create the fear, but of power and of love, right? Power is the ability to go forth, is the ability to live without fear. And of love, love is sacrificial. It is supplemental, right? It's not this fuzzy feeling we always talk about. In a sound mind, that means you are stable in all your ways. You're able to make sound decisions. You're able to make consistent decisions. You're able to produce positive behaviors on a consistent basis, okay? Now, in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 tells us, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. We are to respond, think, and do according to what is true, to what is noble, to what is right, to what is pure, right? And to all things that are lovely and admirable, right? Because why? We try to think about these things on a consistent basis. So think about people who use their struggle as fuel. I know I do. Then these same people discipline themselves to study. Because why? It's about being aware. It's about being able to produce outcomes rather than someone dictate an outcome for me, right? These same people, they learn. They take the small steps. They do the small things consistently. If you do that, your faith isn't blind. It's informed. Your faith is informed. So that means you have to have an understanding of what's happening around you, what's happening to you, or what's happening for you. Because if you're informed, then you can build the momentum, and momentum creates a new reality. What happens is the people who find themselves depressed, it is because you are doing the same thing, expecting a different result on a consistent basis. That means you are disciplined to looking for new outcomes by doing the same thing. It's just not going to work. So let me define what a paradigm is. I learned this from Bob Proctor. He said, a paradigm is a multitude of habits. So think of it like mental programming stored in your subconscious, right? That control how you live. So you think you're making choices, but really, according to the paradigm is the actual effort or the machine that's making it for you. Because why? I habitually do this, right? Think about things that's pure. Think about things that's love. I habitually do that on a consistent basis, okay? Now, if your paradigm is set in fear, if your paradigm is set in worry, that will produce limitation. So your default system will always fall to a depression cycle. If your paradigm is set in understanding, if it's set in faith, if it's set in growth, your default system will do what? It will fall into a positive way of creation, a positive way of progress. That's what it does for you. You can't change results in your life until you change your paradigm. That's your mental framing. How I perceive it. What do I know? If I'm aware of different environments, different cultures, different places, different cities, different people on how they go about their life, then I am made aware of everything around me. So I will not be easily offended. I will not take everything personal if someone disagrees with me or someone lives a different culture than I do, right? Or I may not fall victim to other cultures, or I may not fall into the falsehood of other cultures because why? I'm informed. I'm aware. Right? So I'm always will be in a place of control, right? So my paradigm controls my perception. My perception controls my behavior. And then my behavior produces results. It sounds simple, but just imagine how many people are doing the same thing, expecting something different to show up in their life. That leads us to this thing called depression. Now, a study at Duke University found that 40 to 45% of daily behaviors is habitual, not conscious decisions, habitual. That means almost half of your life is ran on autopilot. That's your paradigm. How many times have you woke up, got yourself together, went to your kitchen and, brewed yourself some coffee? That's a paradigm. It's a framework that you habitually do. And then now you automatically just do it. Think about it in a corporate setting, right? It's your job, right? Your company, or hopefully your company does, they implement paradigm training, right? So they focus on things like leadership. They focus on things like mindset, right? And they said that the same study from Duke University said that these companies report productivity boost of 20 to 25% year over year. Okay. Now, in scripture, it tells us this. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Excuse me. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'm going to say that again. We don't talk about this enough. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. I'm going to stop right there. How many of us are mimicking what we see in society, mimicking what we see from culture or different nations or different people? That means if you're mimicking what you see, hear, and do, you're not in control. This is why trends are dangerous. This is why following different customs and traditions from different groups of people is dangerous. This is why fashioning yourself after celebrities and athletes and things of that nature is very dangerous, because you will find yourself in a constant cycle of someone else's rhythm or someone else's dream or someone else's life or working for someone else's mission, and you haven't tapped into who you are, and who you are as a person that is what? Renewing their intellect every day, who is renewing their emotional stability every day, who is renewing their mental clarity every day. This is the thing of renewing your mind. That's a paradigm language. Transformation comes from renewing. Transformation comes from reprogramming. Reprogramming what, Chris? The mind. Sounds so simple, but I'm close to saying 80% of people in this world don't do that. Don't do that. So if someone was to ask me, is slavery dead? I'll say no. It's just changed form. That's it. It just changed the form. Let me give you some practical application, because some of you need this. And this is what I need you to do. I want you to identify ignorance. I want you to write down one thing you don't know that may be the cause or the fuel to your worry. Why? Because Hosea said in the word, we perish due to a lack of knowledge. So what we want to do is fill the gap. What's the gap between my ignorance or my stupidity to knowledge? I want to fill that gap. Step 2, so I want you to do, study daily. Now, when you hear me say study, Chris, what do you mean? I study everything. I study me. I study my wife. I study my son. I study the environment outside. I study the moon, the stars, the clouds, the rain. If I see a magazine, if I read something, I study that. If I order from Amazon, I'm studying Amazon, where they get their products from, how much did it cost originally when they purchased it, and how they sell it to me, and what's the profit margin. I study everything. So this is what you have to do. One fact, study that. One principle, study that. One scripture per day, study that. Do not underestimate the compound effect that comes with that every day. That's real application. But the problem is we're waking up every day to live someone else's dream, to live someone else's mission, to do the practice of someone else's culture. We don't know who we are. Step 3, I want you to express instead of suppress. Let me help you with that. I want you to talk to a trusted friend, family member, somebody, and express how you feel mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? Be very detailed and practice articulation of thought within yourself through that. Journal, write it down, right? Take a long walk. No, not these little around the corner walk. No, take a long walk. So then when you got to come back, it's a long walk back. So who you is just you guiding your thoughts. That's it. Because why? If we live in the confines of suppression, that becomes depression. Now, if we live in the confines of expression, that creates the effort, that creates the focus, that creates the productivity. And ultimately, it gets you to a place of progression. Step 4, challenge your paradigm. I told you what a paradigm is, right? It's your framework of thinking. It's your framework of habitual habits. Challenge that. You chilling, Netflix, 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day, sitting there doing nothing. Your eating habits, what you talk about on a daily basis, challenge that. Ask yourself, is this habit or this belief serving me? Is it keeping me locked in to fear? So we want to focus on replacing one of those habits and exercising a new one to get you to a place of progress, to get you to a place of expression, not depression. Step 5. I want you to choose faith over fear. See, faith, you don't got to have all the details. That's why you choose faith. Faith don't show up when you get to a certain level. You got to choose it. We choose fear, automatic. We choose it. We love it because it makes us comfortable. It makes it easy for us, right? They both demand belief in the unseen. Some of you fear something that you have never experienced before. Some of you fear something that you can actually overcome. But some of you won't even put faith in something that you can predict the outcome to. Some of you haven't even really chose faith. When you went to that car dealership and you wanted to get the car, you had a job, you got a steady paycheck. Your credit score ain't got to be the greatest, but you can get a car. So that's not faith. But we walk around and say that. No, you got a job, right? You've been there for a long period of time, 6 months, 3 months or whatever, and they see steady income and they're going to tell you what kind of car you can get based upon your credit profile and also what you make, and they're going to put you in the car. So that's not exercising faith. Exercising faith is when you don't know the outcome. You don't know the direction. You can't see yourself completing it, but you go anyway. You do it anyway. You present yourself anyway. That's faith, okay? Now they both demand belief in the unseen. Fear imagines the destruction that can happen. Faith imagines their creation. For me, I choose creation, right? I don't have to know the outcome. I don't know the outcome, but I'm willing to go. I'm willing to do, okay? So let me give you this illustration. And, you're going to hear this and most of you probably can relate, or most of you may know somebody who has been through this or dealt with this. I had a friend who used to panic every time the bills came. So their paradigm was that for them, money is scarce. They had the belief that based upon where they came from, based upon their level of job, based upon their, environment, where they live at, based upon, their skin color, that they had never have enough. So that produced fear for them. So that means they lived in a paradigm, way of living in fear. They lived and also produced anxiety for themselves, which ultimately led them to depression. I spoke to him and was telling him about some experiences I had. And I asked him, I said, yo, check this out. If you can commit to studying financial literacy, if you can commit to studying the motion and the movement of money and how money is just an idea, just a thought, it's not really actually real, but it is a tool. I told him, I said, I guarantee you, I'm going to walk you through this. I guarantee you when you're done, money will no longer be a master to you, no matter if you have enough at the moment. But out of this framework, I'm going to show you how to shift within this paradigm and operate at a different level that money will never be a master to you again. And I showed them how to look at money in increments, how to break down the variables of that, how to have a utilization of what money can be, what money should be, rather than money dictating to you how you should live, what you should buy, what you should eat, things of that nature. We do this without even really actualizing that we're doing it. Why? Because the paradigm framework in which we're functioning out of is fear. Because for the most part, most of us come from those fear-based, impoverished environments. So he began to study. He began to ask me questions and I began to show him different things. And instantly, a month later, he began saving. In the second month, he began investing. Within the year, he lost the stress of not having enough. Why? Because his paradigm changed. So what am I saying here? I'm saying a lot of things, but one is this. Your environment is going to dictate how you respond to life. The people around you, no matter if they might be your loved ones, family, friends, whoever, associates, they're going to shape an environment that's going to get you to believe a paradigm that is destructive to who you are. It's guaranteed. I fought through it for many years. So depression should not and will not have the final say. But you have to identify depression as a process and not a life event that happens at one time. Okay? Because when we can start reversing that process or to identify the things that causes depression, we will know what to do and how to fight it. Okay? because the ultimate goal is to get to freedom. Ignorance causes us to doubt. So therefore, the ignorance is what we do not know. So you're experiencing fear and doubt. Why? Because of things that you do not know. Understanding gets us to the place of creation. Understanding gets us to the place of faith, which is also a process. So we got to decide what process we ultimately want to do. Okay. So your paradigm shift must be a life mission, right? It must be something that you have a deep conviction about because you desire to shift from one place to another. I always say this, that people have a problem transitioning. I remember working in the school system as a teacher and also as a family engagement specialist and also as a social worker. We would determine how kids, if they would do well in life or they would do well academically based upon how they transition from one task to another. So what we're experiencing in society, especially in the US, is that people are adults and the school missed it, the parents missed it, but they're having probably problems transitioning from one phase of life to the next. This is the problem. So this is why the paradigms will always be present because they haven't identified what they do not know. And what happens is based upon what they do not know, they don't reach out for anything greater than that. So they become committed to the process of ignorance, going from one place to another, which leads them into a cycle of depression. Okay? Scripture confirms it. If we transform by the renewing of our mind, we can what? Paradigm shift in life. So here's your action step for today. I gave you a couple. So we're going to focus on this week. We're going to focus on write down one area of your life where your paradigm is rooted in fear. We're going to find one scripture, one fact, one principle, something that catches our eyes that we have a conviction to or something that's drawing us to. And we're going to directly challenge it, right? By understanding, by studying it so that we don't respond to life in fear. And the third is we're going to take one small action based upon that truth today, not tomorrow. We're going to do this today. The moment you hear this, the moment you are watching this, you're going to do it today. Okay. So this is how we stop the cycle of depression and we start the rhythm of creation. We start the rhythm of using our imagination to continue to live and live a fruitful life, right? I always say that life is about two things. It's about function and about fruit, right? How do I function every day? And what do I produce by the way that I function? So it's about function and fruit in your life. Now, I want to leave you with this. Until next time, in your tempo, move with purpose and build with power.